Hello, my name is John Rose, and in this video, you guys are in for a treat, because I'm going to do something I haven't done yet, and a lot of y'all have been asking for it, and that is to give y'all a better look at some of my files. I'm going to show you some of my most exciting files today, and they all have to do with the number one source of false knowledge. And the number one source for false knowledge covers a lot of categories. It covers the rules of the world, it covers controlled opposition, it covers internet shills, it covers psychopaths, con artists, magicians, and those are the files I really get excited about. Those are the ones I'm going to show you in just a little bit. When I get back, I'm out walking right now with my dog on the bike. Well, actually I'm biking, but I'm taking a couple minutes out to start this video. When I get back, the next thing you're going to see is my computer screen and some of my files, and you're going to get a better idea of how to recognize when you're getting tricked. We're being tricked all the time. This is all about being distracted, and it's all going to make sense because that's their MO. The people who rule the world, it's all about tricking us, confusing us, and keeping us distracted. And you have to understand how controlled opposition works. So what happens is people get suckered in by all different types of controlled opposition. They're everywhere out there. And then they're backed up with internet shills, and then the useful idiots just come on board because this is hard to figure out. It's hard to spot someone in controlled opposition. It takes a while to really know what to look for. But they're not hard to find once you study them long enough and you see them because they're very predictable. They have to be. But nonetheless, the point here is the way controlled opposition works is they'll tell you 1,000 things that are true just to get you to believe in the one lie that's crucial to them. And they don't care what you believe, it's what you do. So they don't care if you know a whole lot of things, especially if it leads up to something that most people aren't going to believe because it goes against everyone's belief system. But yeah, almost everything they're saying is true. How can you not believe it? I had no idea. It's verifiable. Yeah, I understand. That's how controlled opposition works. You're being tricked. You're being fooled. You're being duped, my friends. There's always an agenda usually behind the people who are pretty well known. They didn't get that way for out of nowhere. They're helped out there. They're getting help to get where they're at and do what they do. And again, they always have something that's important for you to believe in, but most importantly, it's what we do with what we know. If we don't get reconnected, everything's a distraction. Now, I've said this over and over and over, and I got to say it 1,000 times again because I'm getting a lot of people coming to my channel recently over the flat earth video I did that don't know anything about my other videos, and you're attacking me and saying things that you just really don't understand. But I understand where you guys are coming from. If you're a truth seeker, man, that's my whole goal, is to unite truth seekers. One person said, oh, yeah, raw food's not going to solve all the problems. Of course not. I always say we got to go upstream and downstream, but the thing most of us aren't doing is going upstream. That's the key. That's what we're not doing. And again, the way controlled opposition works, they don't care what we know. It's what we do with what we know. That's why they're not saying number one message, priority message, raw food. It isn't the condition of the earth. That has no bearing on anything. It doesn't affect anything. So it doesn't matter if our belief is one way or the other. It doesn't change anything. Again, in just a moment, you're going to get a better idea of how the rules of the world work. They're very predictable. They're psychopaths. They're con artists. They're magicians. It all ties together. They're masters of illusion. And the main thing they have to keep us doing is being distracted. Even when we look at them, we focus on what they do instead of realizing, hey, they're a reflection of us. If we change what we do, they won't be around. They can't do it. And they can't do it without our help. There won't be any more cogs in their wheels. You see, there are no rulers in paradise, which is simply a place where we don't have any problems, and that only happens when we satisfy all of our needs. The flat earth has nothing to do with satisfying our needs, my friends. If we pollute the planet, sure, then we'll have a consequence, and then there's acts of nature. So sure, the environment can do things to us, but the condition of the environment has no bearing on anything. It's a distraction. Now, everything else that comes with it, you have to understand that's how controlled opposition works. Of course, there's a lot of valuable stuff, and I haven't even looked at it because I don't want to. I don't need to. I recognize a psyop when I see it, so I'll show you my file on psyops too. I'm telling you, my friends, we got to get educated. We got to be able to spot the enemy. We are the enemy, but the psychopaths are extremely predictable, and there's no way they can avoid it. They can't help it, man. They've got this mentality that they can't fake it. You just can't fake when you're a psychopath. You just can't fake it. That's why you always got to distract everybody, you see. That's why they have to do it. They learn early on, man, there's only one way for me to not be in trouble, and that's for me to be the boss hog. Or always change the subject. And you notice how everyone does that anyway? If something comes at you, you always try to twist it. Oh, you did this. And I see it so often nowadays. Now that I'm getting older, it just can't help but laugh and cry at the same time. Don't get distracted, my friends. Get reconnected. And that's the first thing. So I want to unite truth seekers. And the point is most of you guys are only doing downstream solutions. Unfortunately, there's nothing downstream at all about the flat earth. The flat earth is what we got. It's in the third stage of knowledge. Someone mocked me because he didn't understand that. Well, why don't you watch some other videos before you criticize? Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance. I've got an incredible teaching tool I created that uses knowledge in a way that's never been seen before. You'd be a first-class fool not to go to the ultimate schematic and learn how that thing works. Because you'll be able to have more epiphanies than ever when you finally are able to be able to connect the pieces. Because then you can see what pieces you don't have. So this is going to be a really short video. I'm going to finish it up later on this evening, hopefully, maybe in the morning, and show you some of my files. And I'll, of course, be talking along with it. It's hard to shut me up, right? But anyway, like I said, you guys are going to be in for a treat tonight. Some of y'all that want to see how I put information together, I'm very methodical in the way I do things, except I've been doing it for a while, so you can tell I've changed my methodology over the years. But nonetheless, I think you guys will really enjoy this. If you really want to understand how to recognize the enemy, or at least want to recognize how to, or know how to recognize the edges of the bell, you know, that small percentage of us that's controlling us, so that we can see what they're doing and correct it. So that's the downstream work we have to do. So a lot of you guys that are new to my channel that are accusing me of just saying I only have one solution. No, there's two things. That's why I want to unite all truth seekers everywhere. Most people are doing downstream solutions. I was trying to say that point a bit ago. I didn't quite get to it. That's the problem right now. Most of you guys are nothing but downstream solutions, and we have to do downstream solutions, except, again, there's nothing downstream at all about the earth being flat. That doesn't change anything. But the most important thing is we got to go upstream. That's where we got to get reconnected. And then we have to do damage control, because we have damaged ourselves and the environment, and we've also damaged society. And I've put a video out back last year in September. I'm going to put a link down below. The ultimate solution to unite truth seekers. And I'm trying to, and I explained in that video how important it is for us to understand that we have to work downstream. We have to end the Fed. But now let's get this to help you understand what I mean by a distraction. In the Fed is a distraction. If you don't understand, you got to get reconnected to solve the problems. You see? In the Fed is a distraction. If I'm going to say in the Fed is a distraction, don't get your, whatever that phrase is, I don't even know how to say it anymore. Hairs in the curl, no, that's not it. Don't get your feathers ruffled. There you go, there's one of them. Don't get your feathers ruffled if I'm saying that flat earth is a distraction. Ending the Fed is a distraction too. If you don't go upstream and get reconnected and correct the fall of mankind. If we corrected the fall of mankind, we would have a different mentality, and that's how we solve the money problems. Ending the Fed is a downstream solution. It's a temporary solution because society is damaged. But what we have to understand is the ultimate solution is to go back to what we were and what we had before we started cooking our food. Cooking our food destroys biophotons. That changes our mentality because we lose one of our senses. That's when we went from a gift mentality to an exchange mentality. So why do we have problems with money? Got the wrong mentalities. This is what you guys don't understand. In fact, none of you guys are going to understand what I'm talking about unless you understand there's a simple solution to solve all these downstream problems and all the subsequent needs that are also problems of knowledge. I label 7.1 to 7.6 in my special teaching tool if you're interested in knowing more about how education and money and media and the government and even religion and spirituality come into play when it comes to anything that we need being used against us. They can be weapon systems. But right now we have to realize we've been infiltrated. I've seen more controlled opposition, internet shills, and useful idiots on my channel more recently than I have in a long time. Good news, I'm finally getting your guys' attention. So it's important for us to be united. All of us that want to find the truth. Be open-minded, question everything. Don't believe everything I say. Look into it. And remember, there's no fact like a fact you learn from your own life or from your own experience. And that's what we want to do, is we want to have a brand new reference. And I say that over and over and over. That's why you got to test an idea as time has come. When we get reconnected, we get a better idea of what our mentality is supposed to be like. It's still not quite there yet because the vast majority of us are disconnected. So we will still never really be able to experience what we're supposed to be like and feel that ultimate euphoria that we should have by living in utopia. That's why it's so important that we reach the tipping point. Because if we don't reach the tipping point, the masses will be disconnected and none of us will ever be able to benefit and really appreciate the paradise this planet can have. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off for now. When I pick up next, you'll be seeing my computer and we'll be looking at some files and I'll finish putting some of these pieces together. And remember, we got to be united. We don't want to be tricked and conned and be distracted and do nothing but downstream. We always got to go upstream. In fact, I even said there's 4 ways we can work downstream. So I'm going to put a link to that video also. There's 3 ways to script the law of cause and effect. Look for that video. Because there's also 4 ways we work downstream. Now, did you know that, guys? You're criticizing me? Don't think I know anything? Do you know there's 4 ways we can work downstream? Watch that video and see which one you are, and hopefully you're the right one. Anyway, look forward to seeing you down later. Be open-minded, my friends. Sit down before fact like a little child. Empty your cup. Don't go down rabbit holes that don't mean anything because it doesn't affect anything. So, look forward to finishing this up later, and you know it's going to be a treat. Okay, I'm back, and one of the first files I want to take a closer look at or show you guys would be my file on Psychopaths. Now, I created quite a few files right around the same time, all because of a documentary I saw. I got real excited about. As I've mentioned before, I love studying anybody who thinks they have a solution to our problems. I still don't really understand what the solution is for the flat earth. I guess that's one reason why I haven't been motivated to analyze what they're saying, because they're not really saying what they're trying to solve. What is the problem they're trying to solve? But anyway, around the same time, about 6 years ago or so, close to that period of time, I came upon this really interesting documentary. This is my file on magic magicians. And the documentary is right down here. You'll see it in a second. It was called The Arrivals. Now, I've got a file on Arrivals. That would be right back here. I got an email from this guy, Ed. It was by Hawkeye. He died not too long ago, a couple years ago. I used to get the best information from this guy. This guy was so well read on this subject. He knew so much. Sent out emails all the time. He really understood this backwards and forwards. A smart man. He was an engineer professionally. Engineers are smart people. They're not like doctors and lawyers that just can remember things and memorize things. Engineers have to solve problems. Usually they're pretty smart. Anyway, I got this email back in October. Got this Arrivals. They sent me a link to this video. It's 5.5 hours long. I was trying to transcribe the video, and it was very time consuming going on YouTube, so I went looking on the Pirate Bay to find it, if I could find it, and I did, and guess what? It was 8 hours and 16 minutes long. I watched that thing all in one day. I love studying people who think they have solutions, especially if they've got a lot of good information, because I'm always looking for pieces of the puzzle I haven't collected yet, and I'm always trying to connect pieces of the puzzle. And when I got to the Arrivals, the piece of the puzzle that got me excited was this part right here, part 34, the infiltration of religion. The devils were teaching the people magic. Ashanti and the devils were teaching the people magic before the time of Solomon. And during the time of during the kingdom of Solomon. Solomon came to know that the devils are teaching people magic, so he gathered all their manuals and books. He took them away from the devils, from the people, and he made the law that whoever learns magic or practices magic or teaches magic will be executed. And he took away all these books and manuals, and he buried them, as the story goes, under his throne. Now, I got real excited because when I found this document, I listened to it entirely in one day. I woke up every day for about 2 weeks and transcribed a good hunk of this documentary. Maybe 40, 50, 60% of it I transcribed. And out of everything I transcribed and listened to, this is the one thing that got me real excited, because I connected it to a seminar I went, or a speech I went back in the early 90s when I went to hear Reverend George Malcolm speak. And one of the things he said, he quoted from Revelations 18:23. For by sorceries were all nations deceived. Now, when you look at the word sorceries, what that means is drugs, chemicals. It's black magic. You see, magic is when magic is black, it's used against us. So in Revelations in the Bible here, they are saying that nations will be deceived by these pharmakeia people. So when you look at the word sorceries, it ties into the word pharmakeia. Which ties into medication, which ties into drugs, spell-giving potion, magician, by extension, magician, drugs, pharmakeia. This is what made me realize that the rulers of the world are magicians. They're masters of illusion. That was the piece of the puzzle I connected. So what did I do? I immediately created a file on magic and magicians. It's a 244-page file. I immediately created a file on Psychopaths. It's a 276-page file. I immediately created a file on con artist. And I'm telling you, folks, you need to understand who your enemy is. All of my files, which you'll notice at the top of my files, I have related files at the top of those files. So we go back to Psychopaths. These are my related files to Psychopath. You see I have 43 there. I like this one here. Imagine, if you will, a world run by psychopaths. Now, what I have in my files is I usually have file previews, and if it's a good file, I have a best of the file preview. The urge to save humanity is almost always a false face for the urge to rule it. H.L. Mencken. We'll come back to the psychopath file in a moment. And I'll also come back to the con artist file. We want to look at these because when you look at you have to understand, what does a con artist do? What's their MO? What are they doing to us? Once you study what they do, you know what you're going to find when you go through this. And you can see what I did is I go through and I code things mathematically. Things in brackets are always what I do, like right here, 10x. Most people don't number things when I study things. I like to have things numbered so I know what they are and I can make reference to them. And what you'll find here is you're going to find, what do I have here? It's been a while. I should have looked at this file before I looked at it. It's been a while since I looked at it. But you can see here all the numbers here. There's 14 factors. 14 factors right here. And what you're going to find here, one of the biggest things that these con artists are always doing is they're distracting us. And this goes back to what magicians do. It's a sleight of hand. It's all about keeping us distracted. Manipulation. Here's the rules, 20 rules. Again, no one else numbers things, but I like to do that. The Con Artist Handbook. Again, we'll come back to this. Here we go. This is the part I wanted to look at right here. Page content. Step 1, 4x, 10x, 8x, 14, 14. Again, 17. No one else, I wish people would do this as they put it out there so we would know exactly what we're looking at. But what you're going to find here is one of the common themes what a con artist will do. It's all about distracting us and keeping us off from figuring things out. But let's go back here. Psychopaths. Which sequence do I want to go here? I guess let me finish this one here so I can get it out of the way. When I found the arrivals, I had around 87 files or so relative to what I would call piece number 3 in my schematic, which would be the #1 source for false knowledge. And again, it includes a lot of different categories,
the people who rule the world. It includes people who study the people who rule the world. So a lot of people will be included in this. In the 6 years since then, and I remember when I first found this knowledge 26 years ago, I got really philosophical, started studying philosophers, and that's when I found Socrates, and he said the problem of knowledge is the key to all of our problems. Right off the bat, I realized that we don't know because we don't want to know. That's the main reason. Addictions and denial. But then I realized there were other people who didn't want us to know. That would be that piece number 3. So I've been aware of that piece number, and I've been gathering data on it over the years. So for about the first 20 years, I had about 87 files or so. In the last 6 years, I have almost 400 files now. Some of them are 1,100 pages long, 1,200 pages long, 800 pages long. As you can see, some of these are 200 or 300 pages long. Some maybe only 30 pages. But I've really studied this subject extensively. And again, out of this 8 hour, 60-minute documentary, the main thing I got out of this was that the rulers of the world are masters of illusion. And once I understood that, I was able to go back and look at every story I've ever told, and I realized I could add that as part of the story, and it fit every time. It's exactly what's happening. The people who rule the world are psychopaths. They're con artists. Now let's take a look at psychopaths real quick. Let's take a look at this file. This should lead me on through the rest of this video. And again, these are my related files. At the top, and then the best of the file preview. Here we got the key characteristic of a psychopath. These are the basic characteristics of a psychopath. You'll notice this is highlighted in magenta. Usually, if whatever the file name is, I like to highlight that throughout so I can just quickly glance and you can see all the magenta. That's psychopath. That's all psychopaths just by glancing. So I have I like to highlight things so I can quickly find things. But I highly recommend this documentary called Defense Against the Psychopath, and it's a very, very, very amazing documentary. It's really spot on. Not one wasted word in it. They came right out and gave a real good summary. They listed 9 main characteristics. Again, they didn't number them, but I did. Lack of empathy, lack of remorse. The big ones here, what we see down the road, here's their compulsive lying. That's a big one. Manipulative, antisocial behavior. Look at the common types of psychopaths. There's 6 main types: the narcissist, the victim, the con artist. You see the con artist here, the malevolent psychopath, the professional psychopath, and secondary psychopath. Now that's really interesting. The psychopath's modus operandi, the strategy, the interview, the seduction, divide and conquer. See, this is a big one here too. So divide and conquer. That's what controlled opposition is all about. It's all about getting us to fight amongst ourselves. And again, the people who rule the world are con artists. So if I was to just come over here and copy con artist and do a quick search in my file, that's going to be listed 43 times. But the very next one we go down to explains in more detail what that is. Not all con artists are psychopaths, but psychopaths make convincing con artists. Being excellent liars, they put that talent to use by cheating others. Without a conscience or remorse to stand in the way, they are free to cheat old women out of their life savings, sell quack cures to terminally ill patients, or shortchange the blind. They're usually charming, articulate, and convincing, and make successful salespeople. Unlike the narcissist, the con artist is not as concerned about love and attention as money. So the thing about psychopaths, they gravitate to positions of power. So they make great politicians, they go into the clergy, they go into big corporations. They do very well in big corporations because they don't have any remorse. They are able to make the corporation a lot of money because they don't mind dumping poisons into the environment so they can save money. Again, these are the people who rule the world. It explains why we live in hell. These people have, they think of us as ants. They consider themselves superior to us because they could step on us like ants and they don't have any feeling remorse, and therefore they think that makes them superior. And again, it helps to understand the people who rule the world, just to make some sense out of this, and then to make sure you're not tricked, and then to understand how they work and how they trick us. So everything's a con. It's one big con. It's one big magic act. That's what psychopaths do. So let's go to the next one here in a second. Here, let's go to magic, because this is the one that really gets me excited. Because that's what these people are. They're magicians. It's all a trick. It's all about distraction. It's all about a sleight of hand. Again, these are related files: cold reading, con artists, distractions. There you go. If what's really interesting about this, again, when you see the connections, is that the word sorcery ties into pharmakeia, pharmacy. It's the same thing. The drugstores. So the drugstore, you see the drugstore there. There's a connection there, my friends. And I don't think I pulled that file up. I guess I can do a quick search for it. Well, wait a second. No, it should be in one of these files I already have opened up. Which one would it be under? Let me think. Let me see if I already have it as one of these distractions. Did I have that one up yet? There's distractions. Oh my gosh, flat earth is in my related file on distractions. How'd that get in there? Interesting. Okay, I remember I closed this file a while back because this file is only 96 pages, but it's mostly me using the word distraction. At the top, remember the central bankers are involved in massive fraud, printing our money for the price of the paper, loaning it to us, and then demanding repayment with interest. The only way they can perpetuate this fraud is to distract us. That involves creating divisions. Flat earth division. Let's get them fighting among something stupid like whether or not the earth is round or flat when its consequences of no importance. I'm looking for Eustace Mullins, murder by injections. I had that file up a second ago. Let's pull that file up. Murder by injection. Here we go. Now, Eustace Mullins, a really fascinating man. He's considered the grandfather to the Federal Reserve. Was the only man ever fired from the staff of the Library of Congress for political reasons by a senator who was the president of the Anti-Defamation League. Eustace Mullins had access to a lot of research and was putting pieces of the puzzle together, 50 related files to this guy. I actually had this book on my computer for a long time, Murder by Injection. Never got around to reading it till a couple years ago. And I'm so glad I did because I've been hearing Eustace Mullins' name tossed around quite often and seen quotes of his, but never read much of his stuff. But as soon as I read Murder by Injection, I went out and read a bunch of his other books. I really highly recommend it. It's interesting when he wrote this book, Murder by Injection. When you look at the forward to this book, he said, the present work, the result of some 40 years of investigative research, is a logical progression from my previous books, the expose of the international control of monetary issue and banking practices in the United States, a later work revealing the secret network of organizations through which these alien forces yield political power, the secret committees, foundations, and political parties through which their hidden plans are implemented, and now to the most vital issue of all, the manner in which these depredations affect the daily lives and health of American citizens. Despite the great power of the hidden rulers, I found that only one group has the power to issue life or death sentences in the American, our nation's physicians. So this is what he concluded after 40 years. Now, to put this in perspective, what we really need to do is to look at his preference, or this is the forward, look at the preference to his other book, Curse of Canaan. So I guess that would be under Eustace Mullins. I guess the easiest way to find that is just to do a quick search here. I want to read the preference to his book. Whoops! I hate it when that happens. I know I copied and pasted, but somehow it didn't register. Let me try it again. There's Eustace Mullins. I'm going to go and bring up the Curse of Canaan because that's the book I'm talking about. Now, this is a must read if you really want to understand how the world works. He points out in this book, Curse of Canaan, that well, let me just read the forward too, and I'll come back to finishing what I was going to say after that. It makes more sense after I read the preference to this book, and it was written in '87. The Murder by Injection was copyrighted '88, so this is 1 year before that. So the preference sounds very similar. After 40 years of patient study of the crisis which face humanity, I arrived at a very simple conclusion: all conspiracies are satanic. In retrospect, this conclusion should surprise no one. I admit that it came as something of a surprise to me. I never anticipated that my decades of work would lead to such an all-encompassing and unchallengeable solution. This answer had eluded me through the years, not because I was on the wrong track, but because I had not yet consulted the ultimate source of knowledge, the Bible. To trace the machinations of the materialist conspiracy, I had deliberately limited myself to materialist sources, reference material on banking, politics, economics, and the biographies of those who were most deeply involved in these affairs. So you can see he studied all the pieces, he saw the connections. And what he concluded, or one of the most interesting things he pointed out in this book, is that these Satanists have usurped the priesthood and the educational system for over 3,000 years. So it explains why some of our great books have been infiltrated. And again, you have to understand how controlled opposition works. They'll tell you 100 things that are true just to get you to believe in the one lie that's crucial to them. So Yusuf Moulds, I highly recommend him as a must-read. The Curse of Canaan, The Murder by Injection. And now why am I bringing all that up? Because as Yusuf Moulds points out in the foreword to this book, it all goes back to the nation's physicians. And if you watch my Ultimate Solution 11-part playlist, I start off by pointing out that after many decades of extensive research and analysis, I concluded that everything centers around our health. Everything. And someone made a comment in my channel about, oh, it's not all about health, there's other things, but you have to understand everything of any significance has everything to do with our health. That's how we're being controlled. Everything has to do with us being sick. That's why everything's a distraction unless our primary attention, our primary focus is on getting us healthy. Flat Earth is a distraction. Even ending the Fed is a distraction unless we get healthy, because we have the wrong mentality, because we're sick. That's what causes all of our problems. And again, that's why, for by sorceries will all nations be deceived. You see, they're doing it through the medical system. That's why this is the most important piece of the puzzle. We have to understand that the rulers of the world own and control every major sector of human endeavor. They own the educational systems. They control what our so-called experts study. So they don't know and we don't know. So that's where it really all begins, is to understanding who the rulers of the world are. They're magicians. They're masters of illusion. And it's all about giving us poisons. Remember, magic, black magic, is when you use something against us, and that's what all drugs are. And that's what a sorcery is. It's a drug pusher. That's what doctors are nowadays. Pharmacists, they're drug pushers. Drugs aren't the answer. There are no chemical solutions. Remember, everything that we master is like all new knowledge. It has the potential for evil whenever we apply it to something we need. So when we take fire and apply it to our food, it alters our food. When we take chemicals and apply it to our food, it alters our food. But look, it's magic. It looks like food. We can grow our food on artificial fertilizers, and it looks like food, but it's not, because we lose 83% of the biophotons in the food when we grow it on artificial fertilizers and spray it with pesticides. So the chemical revolution, chemicals are the fifth thing we mastered. And that's one of the things that's being used to control us. It's part of magic. So the books that were buried underneath the temple in Solomon, magic books, what were they? They were cookbooks. They're books on drugs, on how to use drugs to give the illusion that they're healing people because they don't allow the body to communicate. It's all a magic act. Everything's a magic act. It's a con. It's one big con. So let's go back to con artists and let's study what con artists do for a moment. If you don't understand how to be a con, then you're going to be vulnerable to being conned. Let me see here. The con artist, manipulators, con artist tricks. Here we go. Divert attention, duplicated 4 times. See how I highlighted in gray? See how I numbered everything 28 times? Again, it didn't come numbered. I numbered it so I can reference back to it. So we see divert attention. Ignore evidence that does not fit. Oh, that's what you're doing, John. I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole. Don't make me waste my time. Con artists. I'm just quickly glancing through this. The most successful con artists focus on mind control and creating sheep. There's several. Which ones do I want to go over? I think the ones that are red are the ones that are important for me to go over. Here we go. Beliefs are stronger than steel and stone. Confusing reality with story. About reality, declaring reality, distorting the truth. Again, distorting the truth. Peddle misinformation, disinformation. Use a third party. Prove me wrong. Hey, have we heard that one yet? Prove me wrong. Look at the logical fallacies. Forget that the structure is invalid. How can a structure be invalid? Well, if you're treating a symptom for a problem that's lifestyle related, that's invalid. If what you're studying, the knowledge you have, doesn't do anything, it doesn't mean anything, well, that's an invalid structure. We don't, we're being duped. There's no use in proving there's no flaws and or any logical fallacies in it if it doesn't do anything. So it's just a con game. The truth versus the con. I'm the authority, trust me. Using the uncontested, the obvious, or the irrelevant as proof. Using the opponent's argument as proof of your position. Here we go, number 11, diverting attention. This is a big one. This is the main thing they do. This technique is used for 3 purposes. 1, to distract attention from the real issue. 2, to do the real talk about the con artist himself and or about what he is doing. So now this is what you see all the time. When you catch an internet shill on the internet and you're talking with them and you're having a conversation with them, you'll see these are the things they do. Here we go. When a con artist has no legitimate complaint, he or she will often look for and make an issue of something trivial or all but irrelevant. Being excessively technical. Boy, I know one website that does that. It makes it look like they really know what they're doing because it's so detailed, but it's all garbage. Ignore the evidence. Ignore the truth. Ask loaded questions. Create a problem, then offer your solution. We know that's the Hegelian problem reaction solution. Get the people to demand what you want. Impose upon them. Let you and him fight. Again, divide and conquer. Create decisive. How do you pronounce that? Divisionistness. Oh boy, my pronunciation skills leave much to be desired at times. Chaos and conversions. Get the child and you got the adult. Yeah, we know that one, right? Righty. Politics by murder. Divide and conquer, number 25. That's the big one right there. 2 sides are one. How to steal $1 million. We know how to do that. What are the patterns? All warfare is based on deception. That's from The Art of War. Okay, from that one video. So dark, the con of man. So this is what we need to understand. The people who rule the world, they're con artists. They're masters of illusion. They're psychopaths. They have no empathy. And what they have to do is always make sure that we keep distracted. So now here comes controlled opposition. Again, controlled opposition. The best way to control the opposition is to lead ourselves, as Vladimir Lenin. They don't care what we know, only what we do with what we know. They speak of false unity, but actually fragment the freedom movement, so not enough people focus on the right thing at any given time while making sure we're too broke to make enough lasting progress. Once again, it's not what we know, it's what we do with what we know. They will tell you 100 facts that are true just to get you to believe in the one lie that is crucial to them. Controlled opposition. How do you spot these guys? They're pretty hard to spot, except they're predictable. Just like psychopaths are predictable. And to better understand controlled opposition, let's take a closer look at internet shills. Now here's a must-read article if you haven't read this yet. I was a paid internet shill, how shadowy groups manipulate internet opinion and debate. And I don't know if I want to read the whole thing. Let me see if I can glance through. I should have read this before, but I think I can base everything on how I highlight everything. This post is not about Israel, but it is not partisan. It is simply an illustration of the mechanics of how online debate can be manipulated. As this is an anonymous post, we have no way of verifying the information contained herein, and it is presented only for your consideration. Our intent in posting this is not to spread paranoia or incite shill witch hunts, but merely to encourage readers to view what they read and engage with online with a more discerning eye. So you're going to see a lot of internet shills, and they're pretty obvious. Here's the article. This is what someone wrote. I was a paid internet shill by X shill. I am writing here to come out of the closet as a paid shill. For a little over 6 months, I was paid to spread disinformation and argue political points on the internet. This site, ATS, was not one that I was assigned to post on, although other people in the same organization were paid to be here, and I assume they still walk among you, but more on this later. I quit this job in the latter part of 2011 because I became disgusted with it, and with myself I realized I couldn't look myself in the mirror anymore. Skipping forward down to what I have highlighted. I jumped at the chance when a former coworker called me up and said she had a possible lead for me. It was an unusual job that requires secrecy, but the pay is good, and I know you are a good writer, so it's something you are suited for. They don't have a website or even a name. This company changed its name almost monthly, always using bland names like that, which gave no strong impression of what the company actually does. No interview, nothing. I later learned they took people based solely on referral, and that the people making the referrals, like my ex-colleague, Yvette, were trained to pick out candidates based on several factors, including ability to keep one's mouth shut, basic writing skills, and desperation for work. We work on influencing people's opinions here. The company's clients paid them to post on internet message boards and popular chat rooms, as well as in gaming forums and social networks like Facebook and MySpace. Who were these clients? Oh, various people, he said vaguely, sometimes private companies, sometimes political groups. Satisfied that my political views were not strong, he said I would be assigned to political work. The best people for this type of job are people like you without strong views. After discussing pay, which was much better than I had hoped, and a few other details, he then went over the need for absolute privacy and secrecy. You can't tell anyone what we do here, not your wife, not your dog. We'll give you a cover story and even a phone number and a fake website, and you can use. You will have to tell people you are a consultant. What's really interesting is I've noticed some internet shills come. It's the same person, but they come with a different cover story, but you recognize their writing skills. I've seen that before over the decades. Training will last only 2 days. So this is why I highlight everything, so I can skip to what I need to read to. Some of the personnel were assigned to internet message boards like me, while others worked on Facebook or chat chat rooms. It seems these three types of media each have different strategies for shilling, and each shill concentrates on one of the three in particular. My task to support Israel and counter anti-Israel, anti-Semitic posters. Fine with me. I had no opinions one way or another about Israel. And who likes anti-Semites and Nazis? Not me. Anyway. Alright. Meme Patrol. Train you for more complex arguments. More in-depth knowledge is necessary. She handed me 2 binders. The first was labeled simply Israel in magic marker on the cover, and it had 2 sections. The first section contained basic background info on the topic. Second largest section was called Strat, short for strategy, with long list of dialogue pairs. There were specific responses to specific postings. If a poster wrote something close to X, we were supposed to respond with something close to Y. You would have to mix it up a bit, though, said my trainer. Otherwise, it gets too obvious. Some of these people get pretty lazy at their job. This section also contained a number of hints for derailing conversations that went too far away from what we were attempting. These strategies include various forms of personal attacks, complaining to the forum monitors, smearing the characters of our opponents, using images and icons effectively. Now, this is interesting. Pay attention to people's icons. You can tell a lot by whether or not they're an internet shill by looking at their icons. And even dragging the tone of the conversation down with sexual innuendos, like links to pornography or other such things. Sometimes we have to fight dirty, our trainer told us. Our opponents don't hesitate to, so we can't either. The second binder was smaller and contained information specific to the websites I would be assigned to. The sites I would work were Godlike Productions, blah, 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 blah. I was not assigned to work ATS. I wanted to post this on Godlike Productions at first, but they have banned me from even viewing that site for some reason. Perhaps they're on to me. Yeah, it's easy to spot you guys. The site-specific info on the second binder include a brief history each site, including recent flame wars, as well as info on what to avoid on each site so as not to get banned. Like if you go to a raw food website, you can't talk about eating, a raw vegan site, you can't talk about eating animals. So, that's part of what they're talking about here. It also had quite detailed info on the moderators and the most popular regged posters on each site. Personality type, topics of interest, notes on how to push psychological buttons. I love when people try to push my buttons. It didn't work for ATS. A lot of info on your so-called Watts posters, the ones with gold borders around their edges. Focus on the popular posters, my trainer told me. These are the influential ones. Each of these is worth 50 to 100 of these lesser known names. So what you're going to find, what internet shills do when they go to a message board, they go after the people that are a threat to the powers that be, and then they suck up to all the other ones, which you're going to see in the next paragraph. Each popular poster was classified as hostile, friendly, or indifferent to my goal. We were supposed to cultivate friendships with the friendly posters as well as the mods, basically by brown nosing and sucking up. And again, you can see internet shills when they go, because they know who the friendly posters are. It's like the show Survivor and creating alliances. What you see here are, if you belong to a message board, you know who the people who aren't a threat, but they're friendly. These internet shills, they spot those people, so they get on their side and they start sucking up immediately, saying, "Oh, that's such an interesting post," where everyone else is ignoring them because they don't usually have anything to say. And so now all of a sudden they got a friend saying, "Oh, this guy likes me," so they suck up to them. Now they're on their side, so then when they start attacking people, they'll have someone on their side that stick up for them. And you see this all the time. It just drives you crazy to see how other people don't get it. So the friendly posters, these are what we call useful idiots. They are pawns to internet shills, and they just don't know any better. They're being duped. They have no idea. Going on here. Notes on strategies for dealing with specific hostile posters. The hostile posters are the ones hostile to the powers that be. So when I posted on a raw food message board, I was a target because I had valuable information that people could attack. And then the people who were new or just didn't have a whole lot of good information to share and wasn't on a mission like I am, those were the friendly posters. And again, he goes, now this is interesting. If you can convert one of these hostile posters from the enemy side to your side, you can get a nice bonus. I saw that happen on another raw food message board where this woman came out and was attacking everybody. And it was interesting how she was able to turn people around saying, you got a bonus check on that one. In fact, once you understand how these people work, you know what it's like to be their boss. So that's what you do. Pretend like you've got a bunch of internet shills underneath your belt. And when you go on to message boards or chat rooms or YouTube channels, you can say, just imagine that you're their boss and saying, who's doing a good job at being a shill? And then you start looking at their MO and you go, boy, they're consistent what they do. Okay, going on here. At first, like I said, my job was meme patrol. It involved countering memes, introducing new memes. Let's keep going here. Mostly just repetitive posting. A lot of my job was derailing and spamming threads. See, this is why I clean up my channel. Someone said, "Oh, John, you don't have a right to delete posts. You don't know what you're talking about, man. Don't tell me what I'm supposed to be doing. You don't know what's going on." The one shill that was on this raw food message board, she would come in, and no one would respond to her, and she'd respond to herself by hitting the respond button, which means that it would copy her whole post. She'd give a real long post, and then she would reply to her own post, which would fill up the space with another long post, and then she'd say like yep or whatever. And again, that's what they do is and this is what I'm trying to do on my channels. I want people to come to my channel and look at a bunch of good information. I don't want to see a bunch of internet shills posting a bunch of crap taking you the wrong direction. Now, I've let this one recent post, I don't mind this one going on that way because that's kind of why I did it, is just let you guys go ahead and go off on a tangent. But on most of my videos, I don't want a bunch of crap on there so that when people come to my channel, they can't find what I want them to find. I want them to find testimonies of people doing a solid food vacation. So what's their job is to derail the post and put a bunch of crap on there, right? Didn't go far away. Making accusation of racism and anti-Semitism. Sometimes I had to simply lie and claim a poster said something or did something in another thread they really hadn't said or done. And the sad thing about this is most people don't pay attention. It's so easy to fool most people on message boards. Most people just don't pay attention, or their comprehension skills leave so much to be desired. It's hard to understand, you know, which of the two it is. Okay, here, do I need to even go through this? The complex debates, friendly and hostile. I was given a job of trying to find new recruits. I'll just keep going down here. Show way of life. Maybe I should back up a little bit. I was also given a job, pro-Israel. Let me read this part down here. This too I understood is part of their strategy. Don't stay in the same place for too long. Don't keep the same name too long. Move on after a half a year or so. Keeping a low profile, finding new employees through word of mouth. All this is part of the shill way of life, but it's a deceptive way of life. Okay, this guy got fed up with it. But I think you should know shills exist. They are real. They walk among you, and they pay special attention to your popular gold-bordered Watts posters. You should be aware of this. What you choose to do with this awareness is up to you. So, supposedly this is the confessions of a shill. They do exist. It's part of the social media. They're everywhere. It's hard to know where they are. Controlled opposition, top of the list. Alex Jones, big time controlled opposition. David Icke, again, controlled opposition. These guys don't get there. How do I know Alex Jones is controlled opposition? He fails the Hitler test. Every show he slams Hitler every time as the epitome of evil. We can't trust our belief system, my friends. We've been bombarded with so much bullshit that we don't know what is what. And if we've told something over and over and over enough, we'll finally believe in it. Let me see here. United Nations World Health Organization. That's all tied into controlling the world. Let me go ahead and close that file out and see if there's any other files that I think I should bring up. I'm going to go ahead and close these out just so I can bring some more files up if I can think of anything else I would like to share with y'all. I tell you what I can do. Let's do this real quick. I wonder how long I should have taped. I should have looked at the time on this. And I've got a looks like a something on the front of this. What's going on? Oh, I see. I thought my camera was telling me something. I was like, oh my god, my camera's doing something. No, that file wants me to save it. Yeah, what I could do now is take a quick look as soon as that file finishes being saved. If it's a big file, sometimes it takes a while for it to open up. Okay, let me go ahead and show you this. Let me show you two things. One is my updated version of my schematic, and this right here leads into my schematic. I cleaned it up a while back. When I first did the ultimate schematic, I was expecting a friend of mine to help me do the artwork for the schematic, and that didn't come through, so it took me a while before I finally tried to clean it up a little bit. But this is the beginning of my special teaching tool. It was the cause and effect and pleasure and pain quadrant system, where we have cause and effect, and then when we look at the effects, they're either positive or they're negative. In other words, pleasure and pain, our brains are wired for that. You notice I labeled them 1 and 2, and they're color coded with gray. 1 are things we do, 2 are things done to us. 1, 100% within our control. 2, not 100% within our control. The 3 stages of knowledge. I'm going to probably reference back to this video perhaps, or provide links so y'all can see this. This illustrates the 3 stages of knowledge, where they can be labeled A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, but we've got acquired, applied, manifested, thoughts, actions, reactions, beliefs, causes, effects, belief system, lifestyle choices, feedback system, the things we think, first stage of knowledge, the things we do or have done to us, second stage, and the things we get. And remember, they're either 100% within control or not 100% within control. And again, I coded those so you can see the grays. Now we got the ultimate schematic. Now I don't think I really want to. Well, yeah, this is one way I could show you the ultimate schematic. In the plus A box of knowledge, I have 14 needs, 2 groups of needs, 12 and 2, 5 things we mastered. Again, I color code things. The needs are in yellow, the things we mastered are in red. And there's 3 ways to correct 5 main mistakes. There's 2 forms of consequences. That's in the plus A box of knowledge. In the negative A box of false knowledge, we have, I hid those pieces. I didn't want to show them. The only pieces I showed in the negative A box of false knowledge were the pieces related to the 5 main things we mastered. And the main reason why I did that is because the first of these 5 pieces would be our false belief that cooking is an art. That was so important. I want to make sure and show that. And now what I want to do is, instead of showing this, I'm going to go ahead and bring this file up. And again, I probably should have. No, let's go ahead and stay here. I take it back. Let's go ahead and let me show you what you guys saw originally. This is what I showed originally in the ultimate schematic, and what you can see is no clear distinction where the boxes are. If I come over here and point, yeah, there is the A box and the plus A box and negative A box. There's the plus B box, negative B box, and then here's the doorway, then here's the gateway. It doesn't really make much sense. You really can't see things. And then here are the 120 pieces that I listed. And then these are the sub pieces within them. And you guys got a picture of this, and there's the 8 wrong approaches. Okay, so let's go ahead and show you an updated version of the ultimate schematic. I should be able to just clear that out and it should show up. So what I did is I went on and did this several ways. One is I made these boxes real big, so now you can see the doorway. This is where I have pieces 51 to 60, and I also drew arrows indicating that the boxes are going this way. So we got 2 doorways here. Remember, there's 18 portals in my special teaching tool. There's 6 doorways. There's the 2 that go from the plus A box to the B box, the plus A to plus B, and the plus B to plus C, both on the right path and the wrong path. So there's these 2 doorways. And then we also have doorways here, right here. And again, the arrow points going that way, and a doorway here going down. There is no doorway in between what we do. So that's one way to look at it. Now, what we have, in addition to these 6 doorways, we have 4 diagonal gateways. We have 109 with an arrow pointing this way and ending up pointing to 95 to 99. An arrow 110 pointing up here going to 75 to 79. An arrow 112 here pointing to 103. Oh my God, 103 is supposed to be down here, right? But see, there's a box around it, so it's in limbo. and then of course we also can go 111 right here, pointing 111 pointing down to 103. So real quickly, the 109, this is the fall of mankind. 22 to 35, now this is something I didn't have in my original schematic. Piece number 1 is in a circle with a dotted line. Now, this is the plus A box of knowledge right here. And our knowledge could be represented by a circle with a solid line. And everybody has different sized circles inside this box of knowledge. But outside of our circle is piece 1. It used to be inside of our circle. We used to know what to do. This is knowledge of how to live. And we lost that knowledge when we took piece 36, which is fire, and we applied it to piece 24, which is food. When we did that, we slid down to 109, and we got 95. This is the fall of mankind. So when we look at the fall of mankind, it includes pieces 36, 24, 109 to 95. The actual act, the thing we did that created the hell we're living, is 95, because when we do a 95, this doorway is an automatic. And we get a 103, which is a problem within our control. Now we're in hell. And the difference between 103 and 101 is 101 is paradise, because we don't have any problems that are within our control. Why? Because we're satisfying our needs. Yellow is our needs. If 22 to 35, we satisfy our needs, we get 61 to 74. If we make good applications to the 5 things we master, we get 75 to 79. Those 2 come over here to 101. Then we have things outside of control. 80 is acts of love and kindness, and if that happens to us, we get 102, and more good stuff outside our control. But then we've got the mistakes. If we don't satisfy our needs, or if we apply what we master to what we need, we make mistakes, and then we end up with either 81 to 94, and 95 to 99 are actually piece 83.1 to 83.5, which is reflecting applying 36 to 40 to 24. 24 in this box comes down here as piece 83. And that's unnatural food, so natural food would be 63 right here. Knowledge of food is 24 right here. Eating the right food is 63. Eating the wrong food is 83. But because it's so important, I assigned whole numbers to it and gave it pieces 95 to 99. These two right here, again, the arrow points right to 103. These are problems within our control. So the purpose of my special teaching tool is to make things simple. What are problems? Well, problems are, if we do it two ways, go to the very top, problems are negative effects. This is where a problem is right here, a negative effect. Or problems are in the third stage of knowledge on the wrong path, where we have hundreds of thousands of problems right here, you see? That's the negative C box. But the problem is these problems that are within our control, we believe are outside of control. That's 104. Now, the people who are in charge of our health are experts in 104, but they've been given a monopoly for all of our problems, but they're not qualified to deal with 103. So what do with our so-called experts? They put them in this doorway in between the negative B box of mistakes and the negative C box of problems. That's a doorway. That's where we put our doctors, and they use drugs to interfere with the body's communication system so that we don't end up with a negative effect. Over here in doorway 105, this is where we have prisons and asylums. So when people have bad thoughts and they want to act badly, to keep them from committing a crime and having which would be a 101. 101 are acts of nature, or accidents and acts of 101 would be things outside of control, like accidents and acts of nature, and acts of war, crime, and violence. So how do you avoid that? Well, if we can lock them up, that's what the 105 is. This is where prisons and asylums are. It doesn't allow people to act out on the impure thoughts. Remember, what's in the wrong box? What's in the plus A box? Or what's in the first stage of knowledge? That's what we acquire. That's our thoughts. That's our beliefs. That's our belief systems. It's the things we think. Okay, I don't need the psychopaths. There's my little girl, Sienna Rose. Okay, so here we go once again, coming down here and looking at this one schematic. So what do we got? We've got a lot of problems that are within our control. We have piece number 3. This is the number one source of false knowledge. They're the ones who put people in 106 and 105 to give the illusion that we're solving our problems. How do you not end up with a negative C? You don't let the body communicate to itself. You don't let people act out on their impure thoughts. It's an illusion. We're on the wrong path. So almost everything we're doing is downstream, and we're trying to figure out how to deal with being downstream. So the solution here is we got to make a vertical move. See this little arrow pointing upwards? We got to go through this doorway. There's obstacles in this doorway. There's pieces 3 to 21. There's 19 main pieces, but there's 21 pieces within pieces here. And that's again reflected where? Over here. When we look at the end of my 120 pieces, down here we look at all the pieces within pieces. There's 6 ways that subsequent needs from being on the wrong path are also problems of knowledge, 7.1 to 7.6. 8 ways we use the wrong approach, 8.1 to 8.8. 8.2, we use the wrong approach whenever you look for logical fallacies in systems with invalid structures. That's what allopathic medicine is doing. We're using an invalid structure. Then we also have apathy. There's 10 ways we use apathy. Then we also have 10 ways we have 10 ways that we have subsequent needs from being on the wrong path. And these are all because we're disconnected. And remember, the first 6 of these right here are also problems of knowledge. So education, money, communication, we go down here to 7. Education, money, you see the same thing, 7.16. These are the same ones. So that's how the diagonal gateways work. That's how 109 works. We slide down. Then we have 112 that slides up. What's the story behind that? Well, this is when we build up a tolerance to our mistakes, and that's how we end up with that 103 in limbo. And then 5-6 decades later, we go down, we go through the 108 doorway, and then heart disease manifests, cancer manifests. We think it falls out of the sky. Well, no, it just fell from through the 108 doorway is all. Now, I've changed up the arrows to kind of try to figure out, well, what's the best way to show this? These little bitty arrows, does that make sense? How about if I extend those arrows all the way out? Let's take a look at them now. And I only did it for the ones that were important. Piece 109, you see I drew the line right from 109 right to 95. I drew 112 right up to 103. In other words, we're making a mistake, and yet we're getting a latent disease of 103 in limbo. Down here, I tried doing the schematic one more time, but then I changed the size of these doorways. Instead of having real big doorways where I could write things out, I made them a little bit narrow, so then the boxes were more obvious. I like that better. Then I had to spell doorway going down. It's still workable. But again, it shows where everything is at. Again, we have pieces 3 to 21 in this doorway. We have pieces 51 to 60 in this doorway. But then there's 3 pieces within pieces here. So we got 40 pieces here, 13 pieces here, 43 altogether. And then piece number 1 and piece number 2 are the other 2 problems of knowledge. These are 2 forms of ignorance where we don't know. So there's a total of 55 problems of knowledge. What's the best solution? The best solution is to come right up here in 51 and go to 54.5. 54.5 is where we test an idea as time has come. So if we look at apathy, there's 10 ways we have apathy. 18.1 all the way 18.4, but then when we go to the second doorway, we get 54.5. 54.5 is what I'm talking about here. We're unwilling to apply piece number 1, and in other words, we're unwilling to eat a raw vegan diet. But you don't have to believe in this to apply it. You can test an idea as time has come. So this is a really important piece. Out of all 55 problems of knowledge, piece 54.5 is all we have to do. Test an idea as time has come. Let's be willing to apply what we know about how to live. Piece number 1. Again, when we're looking at the numbers here, that explains, it all starts with piece 41. That's a juice fast. Piece 43 is a raw vegan diet. 75 to 79, that's correcting the 5 main mistakes. 61 to 74, that's satisfying our 12 essential needs and the 2 additional temporary needs. So what's the solution? It's really simple. How to deal with all those problems, just test an idea as time has come. Now let's see, is there any other things I can show you with this schematic? I think that's, no, here's another one. Okay, yeah, here we go. Now I'm going to show the wormholes. This is how the wormholes work. Again, we still have the smaller doorways on the side. We have the long arrows pointing from 109, only on 109 this time. But then what I've shown are the 8 wormholes. And initially I only had 4 wormholes, but that's before I realized I didn't illustrate how false interpretations come into play. So here are the wormholes. This is where effects become causes, as in the causal loop. 113 is the causal loop. Whatever we get is going to determine, it can come back and cause a problem. In this case over here, it's 117. So what's an example of 117? Diabetes. How can diabetes cause a problem? Well, it's the number 1 cause of blindness. It's the number 1 cause of gangrene, of people's legs being amputated. But it's not the primary cause, it's a subsequent cause. It was an effect over here, a 103, before it became a cause. But it does ripple around, that's 117. And then 118, now that's the negative knowledge loop. This is how we perpetuate false knowledge. Piece 2 is false knowledge. So when we start our journey on life with false knowledge, especially piece 46 to 50, especially 46, we make these mistakes 95 to 99, we get 103, a bunch of problems, and then that ripples back around, causes more problems, 117, and perpetuates the false belief because we don't know we're doing something that's wrong. The same thing happens up here on the top half. If we satisfy our needs, we get positive effects. That gives us positive causes, and then we get that 114, the positive effects. Now 114 is what becomes 45. So if we look at these piece numbers up here in the plus A box of knowledge, 22 to 35, 2 groups of needs. 36 to 45 things we mastered. 41 to 43, 3 ways to correct 5 mistakes. 44 and 45, these are 2 forms of consequences. 44 is the knowledge of the consequences. Piece 5 is the experience of the consequences. Everyone knows experience is the best teacher. So when we go on a solid food vacation, we correct 75. When we do 41, we actually complete the 41-45 connection. Why? Because when we do 41, we are correcting these 5 mistakes, 75 to 79. Now we're getting 101 instead of 103. Now we get 114 instead of 118. We're not perpetuating false knowledge. We got a brand new reference, piece 45. That's what we need more than anything, is piece 45, because right now we're using the wrong approach. Piece 8.1. Remember that? Piece 8.1, there's 8 ways we use the wrong approach. Come back up here. 8 ways that we use the wrong approach. 8.1, we use the wrong approach when we expect systems to solve problems that only we can solve. We think the experts in piece 104 are the solutions for 103. Again, that's where our allopathic medicine is at. So when we have a brand new reference, we come to the realization that systems aren't solutions. And how do we know that? Because every problem they were trying to solve went away when we simply took responsibility and did what we have to do. So real important that we complete the positive knowledge loop, piece 114. It's real important we complete the 41-45 connection so we can have a brand new reference. And it all begins by going through these 2 doorways. We got to go through this doorway, find the knowledge we need, piece number 1. Then we got to apply it. When we apply it, we correct the 5 big mistakes. And now we're satisfying all of our needs. Whoops, I don't want to bold that. Undo it. Thank you. Undo it. Thank you. And then now we're getting positive effects. Now we're in paradise. And is there anything else there? Okay, what else can I say about this? False interpretations. This is where it gets really tricky. If we start our journey off in life and we make a mistake, or we have false knowledge and we make a mistake, and we make it over and over and over, what happens? Well, we slide up 112. Let me see if I have a 112. There we go. Here's the 112 that slides all the way up to the 103 in limbo. And when that happens, now we get a positive effect from making a mistake. This is an illusion. This is where we end up with a false interpretation. This is where we think what we're doing is okay. And now, when we get a ripple effect from this positive effect, it comes right back down over here as 120, reinforcing false knowledge one more time. And 119, it can cause problems just like the diabetes caused problems. And again, the same thing happens with the false interpretations going the other way, except it's not quite the same way. So if we slide down 111, for example, or if we come down into, or in other words, let's go this way. Let's say, let me say this. There's 2 ways we can make a mistake. One is we can apply what we think is false knowledge and make a mistake. The other way is not apply what we know. We can know we're not supposed to eat cooked food, but we eat it anyway. Okay, we still slide down. We still make the mistake. But now, when we get a negative effect, we know what's going on, right? So now the ripple effect from this 115, 116, 115, there's nothing positive. It's still going to cause harm because we made a mistake. But the 116, look where the 116 goes. It comes up here to the plus A box of knowledge. Why? Because we can learn from our mistakes if we know we were making the mistake to begin with. So it took me a long time before I added these 4 extra wormholes on there. And I know this is this is pretty complicated, but this is something that's very profound. It takes a little bit of time to consider and go over. So one more time, what I want to do real quickly, I know people are dying to see this. What are my 120 steps? Well, here they are, my friends. Again, it's all color-coded. The first 21 are the first 21 problems of knowledge right there. The number one problem we have is we don't have the knowledge we need. That's lost knowledge. It's hidden knowledge. It's a hidden treasure. It's a circle with a dotted line. And the number one reason why we can't find that is because we have false knowledge in its place. Remember, we cannot learn anything when we think we know. These are the 2 forms of ignorance where we don't know. Then we have 12 sources of false knowledge and 7 Willis factors. The number one source for false knowledge would be the dark side of our behavior. This is where we have the psychopaths. This is where we have greed. This is where we have love of money, not the need for money. The need for money, remember, is 7.2. Under here, we've got the subsequent needs, i.e. Need for money, or need for power. See, that's a different problem of knowledge. But that's the big one right there, that piece number 3. Piece number 4 is traditions. I had that as the number one source for the longest time until I realized that we're smart enough to figure out that our problem lies in our traditions. If we didn't have these 6 psychopaths controlling everything and manipulating us and bombarding us with bullshit. Here we got a malfunctioning survival mechanism. See, remember that ties into piece 112. What's 112? Remember, the 112 is sliding up that diagonal gateway. And we have a malfunctioning survival mechanism. Remember, our feedback system's not working anymore. We're not getting the feedback we're supposed to. We're getting a positive effect from it. So this is a big problem of knowledge, why we can't trust our own experiences right now, because we have this malfunctioning survival mechanism. Piece number 6 is fear. Now, a lot of people will say fear is the main reason why we have all these problems. Everything stems from fear. Fear destroys our ability to think clearly. So we can see why that's important, because that's the first step in solving our problems. We can't change what we can't acknowledge. And why are we fearful? We have low biphoton levels, hypoheliosis. Then we got those 6 subsequent needs that are also problems of knowledge. We've got the 8 ways we use the wrong approach. Then we have the combination, piece 9, of our neocortex and our reptilian brain. Then we have 10, the lack of continuity among those of us who know what we're doing. 11, lost instincts. 12, knowledge of cleansing reactions. If we don't know what we're doing, then many times we'll stop what we're doing because we think we're getting worse before we get better. 13, we get emotional reaction before we are able to intellectualize about it. We have a condition I jokingly call amygdalosis. 14, the herd mentality. That got us in trouble because we play follow leader. We're heading for a cliff and we're going the wrong way, but we can use these 2 pieces 9 and 14, and turn it around. We can use that brilliant brain of ours and take one of those things we mastered and modify a water fast, do a juice fast, and get enough people to do it, and we can be the trim tabs and turn our herd around. And now we got the 7 wellness factors. We've got the addictions and denial, got habits, got apathy. At first I had 7, but then I realized, well, wait a second, now that I realize we have 3 stages of knowledge, I can actually be more explicit with apathy, and I came up with 3 extra pieces within pieces. Then we have desires, guilt, and our emotional needs. That ties into the 3 personality traits that I talked about. I had a video on personality factors that you can, I'll put a link down below, and you can go to that video if you want to learn more about that. Now we got different color coded. Now we got our 12 essential needs and our 2 additional temporary needs. So here are our 12 essential needs. You'll notice in brackets I have 12 essential needs. This is the science of healing. Then we have 2 additional temporary needs. We have those subsequent needs from being disconnected, from being sick. We also have subsequent causes that don't go away just because we corrected we satisfied our essential needs and corrected the big mistakes. Then we got the 5 things we mastered: fire, animals, agricultural, which would be the grains, machines, and chemicals. Then the 3 ways to correct the 5 mistakes: the juice fast, the water fast, and then of course the raw vegan diet. The 2 forms of consequences: knowledge of consequences, experience of consequences. Now we're down into the negative A box. Again, false knowledge about cooking, the art of cooking as opposed to the sin of cooking. So there's false beliefs about those things we mastered. That's what gets us in trouble. Now the thing about those 7 wellness factors, they strike twice. That's the 51 to 57. That's the 7 wellness factors. 58 would be bad luck, 59 carelessness, and 60 would be the dark side of our behavior. Actually, I went on and decided to put all of the 12 sources of false knowledge as that. I initially just had it for dark side of our behavior only, but now I put them all under there, and I put them separate because I didn't give them whole numbers. I didn't give them all whole numbers. I gave them all sub numbers. I didn't give them all whole numbers like I did with the wellness factors, because wellness factors don't just strike twice, they strike 3 times, because they can actually be facilitators. We can make something that was keeping us from doing something to making us to do something. In other words, we can have a bad habit or a good habit. Denial strikes twice. It keeps us from finding the knowledge we need, but it also keeps us from finding the knowledge we need. And then again, if we satisfy those needs, that's where we get the 61 to 74. If we make good applications, that's the 75 to 79. 80 would be the things outside our control, like acts of kindness, acts of love. Then if we don't satisfy the 12 essential needs, again, it's color-coded in yellow. We got polluted air, polluted water, unnatural food. I talked about piece number 33 before. Over down here is piece 92. Now it's a polluted environment. So that's one way the environment can affect us. But if it's flat or if it's round, it doesn't matter. We're the ones polluting it. This is within our control. And then we've got the 5 big mistakes: cooking our food, eating animals, eating plants we're not biologically adapted to eat, eating processed foods, eating foods with chemicals on it. And then again, we got number 10. This is where we have accidents and acts of nature and the elements. So this is where the environment also kicks into play. So piece 33 in the plus A box of knowledge comes into 72 and 92 in the second stage of knowledge. And then it also can come into play if there's an act of nature. Again, the flat earth has no bearing on the mistakes we make. It has no bearing on accidents and acts of nature. The only thing that the flat earth might do is illustrate how piece 3 is lying to us and we can't trust our belief system. And again, in the third stage of knowledge, I wanted to make things simple, so I hid those 19 pieces right here, these 14 essential needs and these 5. I hid those 19 and put them under 101. The 100 becomes a 104. I mean, I'm sorry, the 81 to 99 becomes a 103. The 100 becomes a 104. It's the 61 to 79 that becomes the 101, and then the 80 becomes the 102. And then we got the gateways, the doorways, the 105, 106. Again, now we got the wormholes. Here are the wormholes, folks. We got 8 wormholes right down here. And then there's also ways I can also designate A, B1, B2 to show complete control, limited control, no control. Again, we have 6 subsequent needs. There are also problems of knowledge. Money can be used. Remember, money is the absolute tool of control. Government's a problem. A lot of people, like Max Eigen, for example, says, don't go down the flat tree rabbit hole. We got to focus on the government. No, the government's a rabbit hole too. Government's a subsequent need. The key is to get reconnected. Again, we're using the wrong approach. So right down here, 8.8 is a big one, my friends. We use the wrong approach whenever we focus any attention on anything but getting reconnected, especially piece number 3. But that goes with the rabbit, with the flat Earth. You're using the wrong approach. You're not focusing on getting reconnected. Can we learn something by what the flat Earth people are saying? Yeah, but remember, controlled opposition. The punchline is messing with you. Flat Earth doesn't do anything. They need to rename that. But they need to. People in that need to rename it and use it for something good instead of making it just a topic of ridicule by the rest of the people. Again, there's 10 ways we are apathetic. Those are. Initially, again, I only had 7 ways we used apathy, but I added to that. See, how did I add to that? Well, I only said we're unwilling to admit we have piece 2, false knowledge. But then I go, no, wait a second. We're unwilling to admit that we have an inaccurate belief system. Then we're unwilling to admit we have false knowledge in place of the knowledge we need in the first stage of knowledge, and that we're making mistakes in the second, and that our problems are within control in the third. As you can see, I've worked this over quite a bunch over the years. So let me think. I wasn't planning on doing this initially, but I figured, what the heck, you guys, I've been needing to update that. And what else can I say? That's my little girl. This is where I go biking at. I film around that area. The main thing we want to do, my friends, is we have to realize how important it is to clean our body out. Our bodies are literally full of crap. Now, to get an idea of what I'm talking about, let's very quickly take a look exactly what I'm talking about here. Where is it? 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 Here we go. This is the reason why we have to go on a solid food vacation. This is what our colons look like, my friends. This is what it's supposed to look like right here. But look at these x-ray pictures off to the side. This is what most people's colons look like. This is a joke. Look how twisted and bent in shape out they are. You notice that? You see all of that? They don't look anything like they resemble. So where's all this crap coming from? We got a ballooned out section here. Let me go pause that and go backwards here. Look at this ballooned out section here. Look at these ballooned out sections. That's where this stuff is coming from. We got these ballooned out sections all over. These are the herniated blowouts. This is what I had, about 100 of them on my colon wall. Another picture of these herniated blowouts. Another picture of the graph. And now this is the kind of stuff that I saw coming out of me. This is exactly what it looked like. See the definitions and grooves. Now, you can't see that if you're not capturing it. A lot of times this stuff will come out of us, but it'll be surrounded by a bunch of loose garbage, and you won't even notice it. It'll just sink to the bottom. But if you capture it and clean it up a little bit, you go, my God, look what really came out of me. And you can usually tell when these type of things come out. Why? Because they're firm and they're hard. Other stuff coming out comes out soft, and it's, you know, it's not noticeable. When you poop one of these babies out, it's like giving birth. It's like pooping out a Tootsie Roll or something. So it's time to get excited. It's time to test an idea. Time has come, and get rid of the serpent that lives within us. Why? Because this is what it looks like. This is the serpent that lives within us. And I'm telling you, my friends, when we get rid of this, we are in for a treat.